Get your hands off my wife. The command sliced through the noise like a blade, and Geraldine's blood turned to ice. She knew that voice, would know it in her sleep, in her nightmares, in the chaos of 1,000 crowded rooms. Moon Dong-wook stood at the entrance of Club Eclipse like an avenging angel dressed in Armani, and the look in his eyes promised the kind of violence that made grown men weep. The drunk businessman whose hand had been sliding up her thigh jerked away like he'd been burned. Smart man. She wasn't his wife anymore. Hadn't been for 8 months. But try telling that to the most dangerous man in Seoul while 6 months pregnant with his child that he didn't know existed. This was about to get ugly. Welcome back to Afro-Korean World, fam. What you're about to witness is a story of betrayal, manipulation, and a love so fierce it survived the worst kind of lies. Stick around till the very end, because this story will shatter you and then piece you back together in ways you didn't see coming. Trust me when I say your emotions aren't ready for this ride. Geraldine had exactly 3 rules for survival in Seoul's underworld. Keep your head down. Never make eye contact with the clientele. And whatever you do, don't work in Gangnam where Moon Dong-wook's people might see you. She'd been doing fine with rules 1 and 2. Rule 3 had just exploded in her face. I asked you a question, Geraldine. Moon Dong's voice was dangerously soft now as he moved through the crowd. People scattered like he was radioactive. What are you doing here? Her manager, Mr. Kim, appeared from nowhere, his face pale with terror. Mr. Moon, sir, I didn't know she was... Get out of my sight before I forget I'm trying to be civilized tonight. Moon Dong didn't even look at him, his eyes locked on Geraldine with an intensity that made her knees weak. You have 5 seconds. Mr. Kim vanished. The drunk businessman had already fled. The other girls working the VIP section had mysteriously found urgent tasks elsewhere. Even the music seemed quieter, like the club itself was holding its breath. Geraldine forced herself to stand straight despite her aching back and swollen feet. She'd faced down worse than this. She'd survived 8 months alone in a foreign country, pregnant and penniless. She could survive Moon Dong-wook's fury. I'm working, she said, proud that her voice didn't shake. Same as everyone else here. Now if you'll excuse me, I have tables to serve. She moved to step around him. His hand shot out, catching her wrist. Not hard, never hard, but firm enough to stop her. The touch sent shockwaves through her body, muscle memory of all the times those hands had mapped every inch of her skin. You're not serving anyone. His eyes traveled down, landing on her belly for the first time. She watched the exact moment comprehension hit him. Watched his face go absolutely still, the way it did before someone died. How far along? None of your business. Geraldine. Her name was a warning. How? Far. Along. 6 months. She lifted her chin defiantly. And before you ask? Yes, it's yours. Not that it matters anymore. We're divorced, remember? You moved on. I moved on. End of story. Moved on? Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Is that what you think happened? That's what your mother told me? Showed me pictures of you with that perfect little heiress. What was her name? Jiiu. The woman actually suitable for the great Moon Dong-wook. The bitterness in her voice surprised even her. She said you'd signed the divorce papers. Said you were too kind to tell me yourself that marrying a foreign nobody had been a mistake you regretted. The muscle in his jaw jumped. My mother said what? Does it matter now? I signed the papers. I left. I'm surviving. That's all there is to it. You're 6 months pregnant, working in a nightclub and barely standing upright. He bit out. That's not surviving. That's dying slowly, and I want to know why you didn't tell me. Because you didn't want me. The words exploded out of her before she could stop them. Your mother made it very clear. I was an embarrassment. Wrong skin color. Wrong background. Wrong everything. She paid me money to disappear quietly. Said if I really loved you, I'd let you go without making a scene. So I did. I loved you enough to leave. For a long moment Moon Dong just stared at her. Then he pulled out his phone, made one call, spoke in rapid Korean. When he hung up, his attention returned to her with laser focus. Club Eclipse is now under new management, as of 2 minutes ago. Everyone here gets proper contracts and actual wages starting tomorrow. You're done working here. You can't just watch me. He shrugged off his suit jacket, draping it over her shoulders. It swallowed her frame, warm and smelling like him. My car is outside. We're leaving. I'm not going anywhere with you. Yes, you are. Because you're exhausted, pregnant, and clearly haven't had a proper meal in days. Because standing here arguing with me is making you sway on your feet. And because carrying my child while working in a place where drunk men put their hands on you ends tonight. His voice dropped lower, intimate despite their audience. Fight me tomorrow. Tonight, let me help you. She wanted to refuse, wanted to prove she didn't need him, didn't need anyone. But her feet were screaming in cheap heels held together with hope and superglue. Her back felt like someone had taken a hammer to her spine, and the baby was doing acrobatics against her ribs, probably protesting the stress. She was so tired of being strong alone. Fine, she whispered. One night. Then I'm gone. We'll see about that. His car was waiting outside, a black Mercedes with windows so dark they looked illegal. He helped her inside with unexpected gentleness, his hand supporting her elbow, careful not to jostle her belly. The interior was all leather and luxury, a painful reminder of the life she'd left behind. They drove through Seoul's glittering streets in heavy silence. Geraldine kept her face turned to the window, watching the neon blur past. She could feel his gaze on her, intense and searching, like he was trying to memorize every change in her face. Where have you been? His voice finally broke the quiet. I searched everywhere, Geraldine. Police contacts, private investigators, every resource I had. You vanished like you never existed. That was the point. Why? The single word carried 8 months of anguish. We had problems, yes. My work was demanding. But you were my wife. You don't just disappear without a word. Your mother had divorce papers with your signature. The words came out flat, emotionless. Years of practice keeping her feelings locked down tight. She had photos of you with Jiiu at galleries, charity events, business dinners. She said you were too polite to tell me yourself that I'd been a mistake. That marrying me had damaged your reputation and you needed someone suitable. Someone Korean. The car swerved slightly as his hands clenched the steering wheel. She said what? She gave me money, enough for a plane ticket and a few months' rent. Said if I really cared about you, I'd leave quietly and let you fix your life. Geraldine's voice cracked despite her best efforts. So I did. I left. And then I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks later, and by then it was too late to come back. You'd moved on. You had Jiiu. I wasn't going to trap you with a baby you never wanted. I never signed divorce papers. Moon Dong's voice shook with barely controlled rage. I refused. Told my mother I'd burn Seoul to the ground before I let you go. Geraldine's head snapped toward him. What? I came home one day and everything you owned was gone. Your clothes, your books, that ridiculous collection of vintage records you insisted on buying from Hongdae. Just gone. His jaw clenched. My mother claimed she had no idea where you went. Cried about how she'd tried to convince you to stay, but you were determined to leave. And like an idiot, I believed her at first. Spent weeks thinking you'd left because you didn't love me anymore. But the divorce papers, forged. My signature was forged. He pulled into an underground garage, movements sharp with fury. I had lawyers investigate after 3 months of searching. Found the corrupt official she'd bribed to file them without proper notification. The divorce was never legal. We're still married, Geraldine. You never stopped being my wife. The words hit her like a physical blow. That's not possible. It's absolutely possible when your mother-in-law is a classist woman with enough money to buy whatever she wants. He killed the engine, turned to face her fully. She lied to both of us, manipulated us both because she couldn't stand that I married a black woman instead of a nice Korean girl from a good family. She destroyed us, Geraldine whispered, the realization settling over her like lead. She took everything. No. She tried to. Moon Dong's eyes burned into hers. But she failed. Because you're here. Pregnant with our child. And I'm not letting you go again. Not ever. The penthouse was exactly as she remembered. Modern, minimalist, expensive. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing Seoul's glittering skyline. But there were differences too. Her books were still on the shelves, organized by spine color the way she liked. Her vintage records were displayed on the wall like art. The plants she'd started were everywhere, clearly maintained with obsessive care. You kept everything, she said, emotion clogging her throat. Of course. He loosened his tie, shrugged off his shoulder holster and gun with practiced ease. You're my wife. Why would I get rid of your things? Because you thought I'd left you. I knew you'd come back. His eyes found hers. Or I'd find you. Either way, this was always your home. She wanted to argue, to point out all the reasons this couldn't work. Instead, exhaustion hit her like a train. Her knees buckled without warning, and suddenly he was there, catching her before she fell, lifting her like she weighed nothing. When did you last eat? He demanded, carrying her to the couch. This morning. Maybe. Maybe? Fury and concern warred across his face. Geraldine, you're 6 months pregnant. You should be eating constantly. Hard to afford food when rent takes everything and tips barely cover utilities. She shot back defensively. I was doing my best. Your best shouldn't have been starving. He disappeared into the kitchen, returning with water, fruit, bread, cheese. Eat all of it. I'll order proper food after. She ate because her stomach was eating itself, because the baby needed nutrients, because fighting seemed impossible. He watched her with an intensity that made her skin prickle, his entire body vibrating with barely contained emotion. I looked for you every single day, he said quietly. Tore this city apart. Had people checking hospitals, shelters, immigration records. Nothing. You'd completely disappeared. I worked in Bucheon for a while. Cash jobs, nothing official. Stayed with other foreigners who didn't ask questions. She took a long drink of water. When I ran out of money, I took the club job. Better pay. No paperwork required. You've been living like that for 8 months. His hands clenched into fists. Pregnant, alone. While I've been... He stopped, clearly editing whatever he'd been about to say. While you've been with women like Jiiu, she finished bitterly. Jiiu means nothing. She's a business arrangement my mother tried to force. I've been on exactly 2 dinners with her. Both public, both torture. His eyes burned into hers. There hasn't been anyone else, Geraldine. Not in 8 months. Not ever. You're it for me. Only you. That's not what your mother said. My mother is a liar who will never see either of us again. He moved closer, stopping just short of touching her. I need you to understand something. The divorce papers were forged. You're still legally my wife. And that baby... His eyes dropped to her stomach with such raw longing it stole her breath. That's my child. Mine. Which means you don't work yourself to death anymore. You don't struggle. You don't suffer. That ends tonight. You can't just decide, I already have. He pulled out his phone, made several calls in rapid Korean. By the time he finished, he'd arranged for a doctor to come first thing in the morning, ordered enough food to feed an army, and apparently hired a nutritionist and a bodyguard. This is insane, Geraldine protested weakly. This is me taking care of what's mine. He crouched in front of her, careful not to crowd her. I failed you once. Let you believe my mother's lies. Let you leave. Let you suffer for 8 months while pregnant with my child. That never happens again. Moon Dong. Please. The word clearly cost him. Please, Geraldine. Let me do this. Let me fix what I should have protected from the start. She looked into his eyes and saw raw desperation there, genuine emotion she'd never seen from him before. Moon Dong-wook didn't beg, didn't plead, didn't show weakness. But right now he looked like a man barely holding himself together. Okay, she whispered. But I'm not promising anything beyond tonight. Tonight is enough. He showed her to the master bedroom, their bedroom, where everything was exactly as she'd left it. Even her side of the closet was still full of her clothes, laundered and organized like she might return any moment. Get some rest, he said from the doorway, hands shoved deep in his pockets like he didn't trust himself not to reach for her. Real rest in a real bed. Tomorrow we see the doctor, make sure you and the baby are healthy. Then we figure out everything else. Where will you sleep? Guest room. I'm not assuming anything. But his eyes lingered on her with such longing it made her chest ache. Call if you need anything. I'll be listening. After he left, Geraldine sank into the mattress and finally let herself cry. 8 months of pain, fear, and loneliness poured out in silent sobs. She cried for the marriage she'd thought was broken, for the lies that had nearly destroyed them, for the baby growing inside her while she'd struggled alone. When she finally slept, it was the deepest sleep she'd had in months. Morning came with sunlight and the smell of burning food. Geraldine found Moon Dong in the kitchen, staring at what might have once been eggs, with the confusion of a man who'd never cooked a day in his life. You can't cook, she said from the doorway. I'm learning. He poked at the charred mess with a spatula. How do you feel? Better than I have in months. She touched her belly. Baby's been quiet. Usually there's kicking by now. Concern flashed across his face. Is that normal? I think so, but the doctor should check. She'll be here in an hour. He abandoned his cooking disaster, crossing to her. Geraldine, I need to ask something, and I need you to be honest. Did you want this baby? Or did you consider... No. She cut him off firmly. I never considered that. This baby is mine. Even when I thought you didn't want us, I wanted them. Relief flooded his features so intensely it transformed his whole face. Good. Because I want them too. Want you both. More than I've ever wanted anything. Dr. Park confirmed everything was fine. The baby was healthy, developing perfectly. Geraldine was malnourished and exhausted, but nothing proper care couldn't fix. You've been very lucky, Dr. Park said seriously. Another month of this stress and we could have been looking at serious complications. But the baby is resilient. Like their mother, I think. After the doctor left, Moon Dong turned to Geraldine with an intensity that made her breath catch. We need to discuss us. There is no us. We're divorced. The divorce was never legal. He pulled out a folder, showed her documents. I had my lawyers investigate thoroughly. My signature was forged. The filing was done without proper notification to either party. Legally, we're still married. Geraldine, you never stopped being my wife. That's not... It's fact. He moved closer. And here's another fact. I love you. I never stopped loving you. Every day you were gone felt like dying slowly. And now you're here. Pregnant with our child, and I'm supposed to pretend I don't want to fall to my knees and beg you to stay? He ran a hand through his hair, frustration and longing warring across his face. I know I have to earn your trust back. I know my mother did damage that can't be fixed with words. But Geraldine, you're everything to me. You always have been. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving it if that's what it takes. Before she could respond, her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Did you really think you could hide forever? Jiwoo's voice dripped poison. Did you think Dong-wook would choose you over someone suitable? You're nothing but an embarrassment he'll tire of eventually. And that baby you're carrying? I'll make sure it never has a place in this family. Geraldine hung up, hands shaking. Who is that? Moon Dong demanded. No one. It doesn't matter. Geraldine. He cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. Tell me. So she did, and watched his expression transform from concern to pure, cold rage. Stay here, he ordered, already reaching for his phone. I'm going to handle this. Where are you going? To make sure Jiiu and my mother both understand what happens when they threaten my family. He was gone before she could argue, leaving her alone in the penthouse with her spinning thoughts and kicking baby. 3 hours later, Moon Dong returned, looking exhausted but grimly satisfied. It's done, he said simply. Jiwoo's family business, dealings with my organization are permanently severed. She signed an NDA that will destroy her if she ever speaks about you or our child again. And my mother, his jaw clenched, she's cut off. Financially, socially, from my business. Everything. She manipulated us both, nearly destroyed our marriage, and let you suffer while pregnant with her grandchild. She made her choice. Now she lives with the consequences. Moon Dong, she's still your mother. And you're still my wife. My priority. Always. He crossed to her, his hands framing her face with infinite gentleness. I choose you, Geraldine. Every time, in every way, forever. She wanted to stay guarded, to protect herself from more hurt. But standing in his arms, feeling safe for the first time in months, her walls started crumbling. I'm scared, she admitted against his chest. Of believing this is real, of letting myself need you again, and having it fall apart. Then let me prove it's real. He tilted her face up to his. Move back in officially. Let me take care of you and our baby. Let me show you every single day that you're my world. And if your mother tries something else? She won't. But if she does, she'll discover exactly how ruthless I can be when someone threatens what's mine. The possessiveness should have bothered her. Instead, it made her feel cherished, protected, wanted. Okay, she whispered. But I have conditions. Name them. I'm not giving up my independence. After the baby comes, I'm going back to work. My writing, my career, all of it. Agreed. I'll fund whatever you need. Best equipment, best space, whatever helps you succeed. I'm not taking charity. It's not charity. It's an investment in my wife's talent. He smiled slightly. Also, non-negotiable. What else? No more secrets. About your business, your family, anything that affects us. Complete honesty. Deal. And I have a condition of my own. What? Marry me again. At her shocked expression, he continued. A real wedding this time. Not the rushed ceremony my mother forced because she thought she could control you. Something real, with your family there, your friends. I want to marry you again with no doubts, no lies, nothing but us choosing each other. That's excessive. Geraldine, I let you believe I didn't want you. Let you suffer alone while pregnant. The least I can do is make sure the entire world knows you're mine and I'm yours. Properly, this time. She looked at this man who'd searched Seoul for her, who'd cut off his own mother for manipulating them, who looked at her pregnant belly like it contained his entire universe. Ask me properly, she said softly. He dropped to one knee right there, his hands gentle on her belly. Geraldine, love of my life, mother of my child, woman who makes me want to be better than I am. Will you marry me again? For real this time? Will you build a life with me, raise our baby together, and let me spend every day proving I'm worthy of you? You're already worthy. she whispered, touching his face. You always were. I just couldn't see it through your mother's lies. Is that a yes? It's a yes. He stood, pulling her into a kiss that tasted like second chances and new beginnings. The baby kicked between them, and they both laughed. Active little thing, Moon Dong said, his hands spanning Geraldine's belly with wonder. Takes after their father. Let's hope not. One of me is enough chaos for any family. He pulled out his phone. Dr. Park, we want to know. Can you tell us the gender from this morning's ultrasound? He put it on speaker. Congratulations. Dr. Park's warm voice filled the penthouse. You're having a boy. Moon Dong's face transformed completely. Wonder, joy, fierce protectiveness all at once. A son, he breathed. We're having a son. Geraldine found herself crying again, overwhelmed by seeing him like this, by their son becoming real. A boy. He dropped to his knees, pressing kisses to her belly. Hi, little one, I'm your appa. I promise I'll keep you and your Iyama safe. Always. No matter what. The next 3 months passed in a blur. Moon Dong threw himself into preparation with an intensity that would have been alarming if it wasn't so endearing. He researched cribs like he was buying military equipment, tested car seats personally, and somehow ended up with enough baby clothes to outfit a small nation. This is excessive, Geraldine protested, looking at mountains of tiny outfits. Our son deserves options. He held up a onesie that said Daddy's Boy in Korean. Besides, look how cute this is. You're impossible. You love it. He wasn't wrong. Her writing studio opened 2 weeks before her due date. A beautiful space in Yeonnam-dong with natural light and exposed brick. Her first manuscript was already generating buzz from publishers. A memoir about identity, belonging, and surviving in a foreign land. You're brilliant, Moon Dong said, reading her draft. This is going to change lives. You're biased. I'm honest. The publishing world won't know what hit them. Everything was falling into place almost too perfectly, like the universe was compensating for 8 months of hell. Then Geraldine's water broke at 2 a.m., 3 weeks early. Okay, don't panic. Moon Dong was absolutely panicking, running around like his hair was on fire. Hospital bag. Where's the hospital bag? I had it right here. Why is nothing where it should be? We're having a baby. We're actually having a baby right now. Moon Dong. Geraldine gripped his arm through a contraction. Breathe. You practice this. That was theoretical. This is real. Our son is coming. What if I drop him? What if I mess up? What if you get me to the hospital before I have him in the car? That snapped him back to focus. Labor was brutal. 16 hours of pain that made Geraldine question every decision that led to this moment. But every time she wanted to give up, Moon Dong was there, holding her hand, whispering encouragement in Korean and English. You're the strongest person I know, he said during a particularly vicious contraction. You survived my mother's manipulation. You survived 8 months alone. You can survive this. You can do anything. When their son finally arrived at 6:43 p.m., screaming his fury at being evicted from his warm home, time stopped. The nurse placed the baby on Geraldine's chest, and she fell completely apart. This tiny, perfect human. Her dark skin, Moon Dong's delicate features, a full head of black hair already sticking up in every direction. He's perfect, Moon Dong breathed, tears streaming down his face unashamedly. Look at him. Look at what we made. He has your nose, Geraldine said through her own tears. He has your strength. Moon Dong traced their son's tiny fingers with reverent wonder. What should we call him? They'd debated names for weeks. Korean names, English names, names that honored both cultures. Nothing had felt right until now. Michael, Geraldine said softly, for my father, and Jae-sung for his middle name, so he knows both worlds. Michael Jae-sung Moon. Moon Dong tested it, smiled through his tears. It's perfect. He's perfect. You're perfect. The first weeks home were chaos. Michael had strong opinions about everything and wasn't afraid to share them loudly at 3 a.m. Moon Dong-wook, Seoul's most feared crime lord, transformed into a devoted father who walked the floors at night, learned to change diapers without complaint, and sang off-key Korean lullabies. You're tone-deaf, Geraldine observed one night at 4 a.m., watching him rock Michael. He doesn't care. He loves me anyway. Moon Dong looked up, expression soft. Just like his mother. His mother is sleep-deprived and covered in baby spit-up. His mother is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. He wasn't wrong about the love part. Despite the exhaustion, despite the chaos, Geraldine had never been happier. 6 months after Michael's birth, Moon Dong surprised Geraldine with the wedding he'd promised. Not some massive society event, but an intimate ceremony on Jiiu Island. Her mother flew in from London crying through the entire ceremony. Moon Dong's friends from his organization stood as groomsmen, reformed criminals in designer suits. And Michael, dressed in traditional hanbok, stole the show by wailing through the vows. I, Moon Dong-wook, take you, Geraldine James, to be my lawfully wedded wife, he said, voice thick with emotion. Not because circumstances forced us together, not because of obligation, but because you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Because you gave me a son I don't deserve. Because you love me, despite knowing exactly who and what I am. I promise to spend every day being worthy of that love. Geraldine's vows were equally tear-soaked. I, Geraldine James, take you, Moon Dong-wook, as my husband. Again. For real this time. Because you fought for us when I'd given up. Because you proved love is stronger than manipulation. Because you're not perfect, but you're perfect for me. I choose you every day, forever. When they kissed, Michael chose that moment to scream at maximum volume, making everyone laugh. He's already protective, Moon Dong murmured against Geraldine's lips. Wonder where he gets that from. The reception was joyful, chaotic, full of love. Moon Dong's mother had tried to come, sending elaborate apologies and expensive gifts. He'd returned everything unopened. Some betrayals couldn't be forgiven. 3 years later, Geraldine stood in her expanded writing studio, now a publishing house for diverse voices. Her memoir had been a bestseller. She'd built something real, something hers. Moon Dong appeared in the doorway, Michael balanced on his hip. He was 3 now, bilingual, and absolutely certain he ruled the universe. Yama! Michael reached for her with chubby arms. Appa says we have surprise. Does he now? Geraldine took their son, catching Moon Dong's secretive smile. What surprise? Well, he said, moving closer. I know you said 1 child was enough, that you weren't sure about more, but... Oh no. She looked at him suspiciously. What did you do? I didn't do anything. You did. His hand rested on her stomach with reverent certainty. You're pregnant. About 8 weeks, if I'm calculating correctly. How could you possibly? You've been exhausted, nauseous in the mornings. Your breasts are tender. At her shocked expression, he grinned. I pay attention to your body, Jiiu. Know it better than my own. She wanted to be annoyed by his certainty. Instead, she realized he was right. The signs had been there. She'd just been too busy to notice. We're having another baby, she whispered. We're having another baby. He pulled her and Michael into his arms carefully. Our family keeps growing. Baby, Michael clapped. I want brother. We'll see what we get. Moon Dong laughed. But yes, you're going to be a big brother. Think you can handle that? I protect baby like Appa protects Yama. That's my boy. 9 months later, they welcomed their daughter at sunrise. The delivery was easier this time, faster. When the doctor placed her on Geraldine's chest, Moon Dong wept openly again. "A daughter," he breathed. "We have a daughter." She had Geraldine's features more prom view set, fuller lips, wider nose, Moon Dong's bone structure. Another perfect blend of their worlds. They named her Grace Minji Moon. Grace for hope and beauty, Minji for intelligence, Moon for family. Michael was fascinated and slightly jealous. He touched his sister with exaggerated gentleness, mimicking his father's carefulness. "Baby small," he observed in Korean. "You were that small once," Geraldine said, pulling her son close. "Now I big brother. I protect." "That's right," Moon Dong said, sitting with both children. "You're the big brother now. That's an important job." 5 years after Moon Dong found Geraldine working at that club, they celebrated their actual 12th anniversary, counting from their original forced wedding. Because, as Moon Dong insisted, every moment counted, even the painful ones, their penthouse was controlled chaos. Michael, now 8, was showing signs of inheriting his father's strategic mind and his mother's creativity. Grace, 5, was pure sunshine in human form, charming everyone she met. "2 kids," Geraldine said, watching Moon Dong referee a pillow fight while trying to answer business calls. "How did we end up with 2 kids?" "You're beautiful, and I have zero self-control around you." He ducked a flying pillow. "Also, we're apparently very fertile as a couple." She laughed, the sound filling their home. Her publishing house had expanded internationally. Moon Dong's empire was completely legitimate now. No blood money, no violence. They'd built something remarkable together. "Do you ever regret it?" Moon Dong asked that night after the kids were finally asleep. "All the pain we went through to get here?" Geraldine considered it. The manipulation, the lies, 8 months pregnant and alone, the fear, the struggle. "No," she said finally, "because all of it led here, to us, to our family. I'd walk through fire again to get to this moment. So would I." He pulled her close on their balcony overlooking the city that had witnessed their entire story. "You're my miracle, Geraldine, the impossible thing that saved me from becoming a monster. And you're mine, my dangerous man who turned out to be my fairy tale." They stood together as Seoul sparkled below them. 2 people torn apart by lies and manipulation, who found a love that conquered everything thrown at them. Their journey had been anything but simple, but it had been theirs, and it had been worth every painful step. If this story absolutely destroyed you in the best way possible, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, obliterate that like button. Show me this story, hit you where it counts. Second, subscribe to Afro-Korean World and turn on notifications because I drop stories like this that will wreck your emotions every single week. Third, and this is the most important one, drop a comment right now telling me the exact moment you started crying. Was it when Moon Dong found her at the club? When he realized she was pregnant? When he proposed again? When their son was born? I want to know which scene broke you because I guarantee at least 5 moments in this story had you in tears. And if you know someone who needs to hear a story about second chances, about love that survives manipulation and lies, about fighting for what's yours, share this video with them right now. Tag them in the comments. Send them the link. Because stories like this remind us that real love doesn't give up, even when everything tries to tear it apart. Hit that subscribe button, fam. We've got more emotional roller coasters coming your way, and you don't want to miss a single one. Until next time, Afro-Korean World family, stay blessed, stay emotional, and keep believing in love that conquers all.